What's poppin', guys? Big K on the podcast channel once again. Today we're going over my predictions for week 6 of the NFL season. So how these videos work is I will display a template here, and at the end of it I'll show what I think the score will be for each game. And the first game, speaking of games, that we're going to be talking about is on Thursday Night Football. And for this week, we got the San Francisco 49ers going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. So both these teams, I guess, let me down last week. And I expected them to win. You know, their opponents, I think, are not very good teams. They surprised me there. They actually beat these teams I thought were pretty good. So both of these teams have come off a loss, and so I really don't know who to say would win this matchup, but I'm just gonna go based off who I think is a better team on paper. And this is another thing I completely forgot about in this whole thing. I never accounted for upsets, or really, I don't know. I just go for who I think's gonna win, not for who I think could possibly lose. But in this matchup, I don't see an upset, and I would say in pretty much almost these matchups, I don't see an upset happening. I'm just gonna go with San Francisco is gonna beat Seattle by a touchdown. And another thing I'd like to mention, last week's video that we did like this, it got an insane response from you guys. And like I said, it was literally the first video we did like this, and it already has almost 1,000 views. So thank you guys for whoever subscribed from that video and for whoever watched it. It was the first one. It was kind of rough. I did make some mistakes in it, so I'm sure this one will turn out better, or at least I would want it to turn out better. Also known as I'm going to make it turn out better. Yeah. So it's like, if you guys want to subscribe to this, feel free. I'm not going to force you guys to, or be like, yo, hit that red button down there. So if you guys just want to subscribe. Do your thing, man. You know what I'm saying? And also, another thing, too, because I know this NHL season is starting up, I might do some videos like this for NHL, too. So be on the lookout for that. And the next matchup we got is the London game. So in this one, we got the London Jaguars. Oh, sorry. I meant the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Chicago Bears, which the Chicago Bears aren't really the home team, but in this scenario, it kind of is that they are the home team. And speaking of home teams, I said London Jaguars back there because the Jacksonville Jaguars are, from what I know, the only team that plays multiple games in London every year. They usually will have like 2 or 3 in London every year, and I understand why. It's because the owner is he's got some ties in the UK or whatever. For a while there, they were rumored to be the team that was going to relocate to London, or be the team that the NFL was going to have in London. But about the Jaguars, yeah. So I did pick them to win last week, and I'm glad I saw that insight of them having that record against Indianapolis, because they did beat them by a field goal last week. So I guess you could say that was an upset last week. So maybe I actually am good at calling upsets. I don't know. But in this one, unfortunately, I do not have an upset for Jacksonville. I just think Chicago has a slight edge over them. Certainly on offense, you could argue too. Like, both of these teams on offense, I would say, are pretty good. But Jacksonville, I think, kind of just lacks on defense. Where Chicago, they have some weapons on. They have some weapons on. My bad. They have some weapons on defense that maybe be like, okay, maybe they could beat them. Speaking of offensive juggernauts, in the next game we got because now we're in the 1 o'clock window, right? So this is crunch time for these games, or in garbage time, because 1 o'clock's considered like matinee times, and anything after that's kind of you're in like the prime time territory. But I digress. But the Washington Commanders are going to be going to Baltimore to play the Ravens, and the reason why I say both of these teams are offensive juggernauts is because because both these teams have been putting up a lot of points on the board in their games the past few weeks. So that's why I call them offensive juggernauts. And I did have both of these teams winning last week. Good call by me, I guess, right? So as for this matchup, I got Baltimore winning by a touchdown. Granted, Washington's been doing pretty good. At least I think they've been doing pretty good. I still think this will be a high-scoring game. I gave them 31 points, and then I gave Baltimore 38. I think this would be a fair matchup for both these teams. I think both these teams, like I said, on offense are just really good. So that score that I'm giving them right there doesn't surprise me. And the next matchup, we got the Cleveland Browns going to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. I think the Eagles were having a bye last week. That's why I don't remember talking about them. But this one, I do have Philadelphia with the 57% chance to win. I just think Cleveland's kind of falling apart at the seams at this point. And about Philadelphia, because I haven't talked about them, I don't think they're necessarily in the best situation either. Although they have a lot of good players on both sides of the ball, I just think Nick Sirianni just isn't the coach that they need, and I don't think he's going to be the one that's going to lead them to a lot of wins. I just don't think he's a good coach necessarily. But I still do think they will beat a Cleveland team that's kind of struggling at the moment. Okay, next game, we got the Houston Texans going to New England to play the Patriots. So you could say that in this one, oh, why do you have Houston winning at a 55% chance? Because a lot of people have Houston winning this one by a lot more because the Patriots really are just not the best team this year. And I say that because they now are going to be. This is weird, right? Because I think New England's been kind of without press for a while, or without like a lot of big things happening there for a while. And I get it because we've been kind of a disaster for a while, or we've been kind of a disaster ever since Brady left. So what they did was, and I think this is purely a move by ownership. Robert Kraft had his hands in this one. He saw that. This is my theory. He saw that Jacoby Brissett, he wasn't playing good, but most importantly, he wasn't selling a lot of tickets. And as an owner, you want to sell tickets. So I think what he did was he decided, okay, we got to put Drake May in there to get some excitement brewing in this building, right? So that's why I think they went all around the league announcing like, oh yeah, we're gonna be starting Drake May this week. But I don't necessarily think Drake May's gonna carry him over the finish line. I mean, this is a Houston Texans team that just beat Buffalo last week in a pretty close game. So I still think they're clear favorites for this one. At least Houston is. All right, so the next game we got the Indianapolis Colts going to Tennessee to play the Titans. This one is at 1 o'clock. No surprise. So Indianapolis, like I was talking about back there with Jacksonville, they lost a very close game to Jacksonville, and Tennessee, I believe, had a bye last week because I don't remember talking about them. But Tennessee, I think they're going to struggle this year because I think Jacksonville's going to pick their feet back up, and Indianapolis and Houston, those are the top two teams in the AFC South. I just think they're just going to get bodied in this division. Bodied. Oh, I said that. That's crazy. So give me Indianapolis to win this one. I still think it will be close, though, because I still do think Tennessee is a good team. I don't think Will Levis is as bad as people say he is. And they still do have, some weapons on offense, and their defense I don't think is half bad either. All right, so the next game we got the Arizona Cardinals going to Lambeau Field to play the Green Bay Packers. So this one's at 1 o'clock too. And Arizona, you guys pulled off the upset last week. I gotta give you credit there. I did not think you were gonna beat San Francisco last week. Like I said, it's like you use Marvin Harrison. It's like you're gonna get some wins. And for this one, I think if they use Marvin Harrison, they're gonna get some wins. But as high as I am on Arizona, I think Green Bay, because now that Jordan Love's back, they're going to be a pretty good team. So I think that Arizona will get edged out barely by Green Bay. I think this will come down to a field goal in the end of it. But even already, I think you guys will be surprised by how close I think this one will be. At this point, I'm just not going to underestimate Arizona at this point because they got everybody back. I think they're going to go for it, or at least go for a wild card spot. In the next game, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to New Orleans to play the Saints in the Caesars Superdome. Yep, that's right. That's the one they play in. So you guys may be asking too with this one, yo, what's that logo you got for the Bucs? Well, this is actually the Bucs' first logo, and I like to switch this one in there like every other week because I think it's a pretty fire logo, and I think you guys would get sick of seeing the same logos every week. So I might do this now where with some of the other teams, I'll just swap in like some of their old logos to spice it up. But for this matchup, I think this is going to be a pretty close one. I just could not, for the life of me, like for a while, come up with who I thought was going to win. I thought it would honestly come down to a coin toss, but I think that Tampa Bay is going to edge them out in this one. I think they will get a field goal in the end, and then that will do it for this matchup. And the Saints are kind of in an interesting situation now, too, where where is it? Derek Carr got injured, right? So I heard just now that they're going to be starting Spencer Rattler, so the guy out of South Carolina, and I think that will be a interesting start for him. All right, in the next game we got the San Diego. What? Oh my gosh! I thought there was San Diego Chargers. Holy crap! So in the next game we got the Los Angeles Chargers going to Denver to play the Broncos. So now we're in the 4 o'clock time slot, and the Chargers are another team that I haven't talked about this year. So as for them, they don't always, from what I've heard, they still don't have Justin Herbert. So if the case is that they don't have Justin Herbert, then give me Denver to win this one. I think it'll be a close game. So I love games where it comes down to field goals, I guess, right? Because I do predict them a lot. So I just think Denver has the edge on defense, and over the past couple of weeks, I've seen in the games that they've played that the defense is really winning these games. They're now at 3-2, and a lot of people wrote off Denver like in the beginning of the season, and I get it, they were 0-2, but now they're kind of up there at 3-2. Maybe they could rival the Chiefs. Maybe if the Chiefs lost a couple of games, they could rival them certainly in the division. Oh, this is going to be a good one. So, in the next game, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers going to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. So, this one, I'm surprised that this is just a 4 o'clock game. I mean, I feel like this could be a Sunday night game. I mean, it probably is better than the Sunday night game. But we'll get to the Sunday night game later. So, for this one, I still think the Raiders are just falling apart. I honestly thought that Spencer Rattler actually was drafted by the Raiders. But turns out he was drafted by the Saints. My bad. So, they got Gardner Minshew starting for this one, and I just don't have much. I'm sorry, I just don't have much faith in the Raiders to pull this one out. However, I still think it will be a close one though, because I think even with the Raiders' problems that they have, I still think that both these teams are very balanced and very evenly matched. But I don't know, Pittsburgh. You guys did let me down last week. You lost to Dallas at home. But granted, there was a whole power outage thing. Maybe they were thrown off by that. But they still disappointed me last week. Anyways, the next game we got is Detroit going to Dallas to play the Cowboys. Boy, this one should be a primetime game as well. And I do have Detroit with a 51% chance to win. It was really tough for me. Because I always feel like in these videos, it's like, I got to pick somebody to win. And this is not one of those matchups where it's like, I honestly could just flip a coin and I'd be fine with whoever will win, because I think Dallas at home is like one of the best teams in the league. Like, they're one of the best teams like when they're at home. And last week they did surprise me in Pittsburgh. I didn't think they'd pull out that one, but I just thought more and more about this matchup. I'm like, I don't think Dallas can really pull off Detroit. I'm like, Detroit's one of the best teams in the league. So give me Detroit to win by a touchdown. And I think it's going to come down to that. All right, in the next game, we got the Atlanta Falcons going to Carolina to play the Panthers. So Atlanta, you really have been surprising me. And I think Atlanta is quietly now one of the best teams in the league, whether it's because they got Matthew Judon or they took him from us, or it's just because they have Kirk Cousins now. But granted, I think Kirk Cousins is probably the best QB they've had in this whole era of probably the 2020s really. So I think them getting him was key, because I do think even at the age of 37, I still think he is a good QB. So I think Atlanta will defeat Carolina handily. However, I think Andy Dalton will give the Panthers at least a little bit of a chance in this one. Maybe it'll come down to within 10 points like I have in this matchup. So it's going to be 31 Atlanta and 21 to Carolina. Okay, so now we got the Sunday night game, and in this one we got the Cincinnati Bengals going to New York to play the Giants. So Cincinnati, they kind of did come close last week to pulling off the upset. Well, at least I thought it would be an upset because I had Baltimore favored in that game. But then you roll over to the Giants. I could not believe you guys actually beat Seattle in their home. And from what I saw, it looks like they got more than just field goals. They got touchdowns too. So I kind of actually did have trouble with this one, because I'm like, New York now, it's like they kind of have that reputation of, they could pull off an upset. But I just don't see it this time. I think Cincinnati will win this one by a touchdown. I think on paper, Cincinnati's a better team. New York just lacks in a few areas, and I think one of them is on defense. As for scores, I got Cincinnati getting 31 and New York getting 24. Alright, so now we're on to the final game of the weekend. This one, I want to say I've seen this one before. Oh, yeah, that's right. That was the game on 9/11 last year where Aaron Rodgers played for an astounding 4 drives before injuring his ankle or snapping it. Well, I forgot what happened to him. I think, whatever. He broke his leg. You guys get the point, right? Something happened to him. He got injured, and then he basically missed the rest of the season after that. So in this one, we got Buffalo going to New York to play the Jets. Now that's wild. That's a quick turnaround for MetLife Stadium because they're going to be hosting a game on Sunday Night Football, and then the next night they have to host a game on Monday Night Football. So New York and the Meadowlands area is going to be pumping for that game. But as for who I think will win this one, it's the Jets have been kind of off to a slow start, and I kind of can see why. Aaron Rodgers isn't playing the best, which I think led to the decision this week for them to fire their head coach Robert Saleh, which I think it honestly came as a surprise because I thought they actually were going to go with him. I thought he did well as a coach, but of course I don't make the decisions for the Jets. If it was up to me, I probably would have kept him, at least for the rest of the season. But with all the instability going on right now in the Jets, I just don't think they're going to pull it out against a team like Buffalo, who almost very narrowly lost to Houston last week. So I got Buffalo getting 31 in this game and New York getting 20 because that would mean they would be kicking a field goal, and they are kind of good at that. Anyways, that's going to do it for this week's video for what I think will be happening around the NFL. If you guys liked this video, of course, like it, subscribe, do what you guys want. And until next time, guys, see ya!